One of the targeting of children also is to make them witness atrocities. Witnessing their own parents being killed in a very brutal way. And when that happens, it means that that child is shattered from inside. And it can produce two things. One is a strong sense of revenge. This child will live the rest of his or her life saying, I have to revenge. But it can also produce another thing, is that this child will never be able to reconcile and to understand the meaning of normal life. Will be traumatized from inside and will become a weak person because he cannot reconcile with what he has witnessed. But the worst of targeting of children is what I'm coming to now, is to take children to participate themselves in atrocities. You have heard about the so-called child soldiers. It is a worldwide phenomenon in which those who are behind this kind of violence, they know that the best way to attack is to plant the seeds of violence in new generation. It means to transfer the conflict of today to 2 or 3 generations which will come. When you instrumentalize children of 7, 6, and even 10 years, you can be sure that they will find it very difficult in the rest of their lives to live without violence. They will find it very difficult to be, stable adults, to be parents. And of course, if they have difficulties in parenting, their children also will suffer for the effects of the conflict today. South Africa has found a peaceful transition, but the effects of what has happened to our children, we are going to live with for more decades to come.
We know that in the resistance to apartheid the last decade or two, boys as young as 10 became activists. When violent conflict started between supporters of the ANC and the IFP in the townships east of Johannesburg in the early 1990s, teenagers played a central role. This is the story of playful teenagers who became serious soldiers. The story of the Tambo Slovo Self-Defense Unit of Tokoza.
Always, those fucking people, always, we live like that. Get them.
The war in Tokoza started in 1990, but most of us were not yet involved in it. We started taking heed of the violence in 1991. We then realized that people were dying where we were staying. It was said that only Xhosa were being killed, but it was not the Xhosa only. People from our areas were also being killed. So in 1991, we tried to consolidate, but because of being under pressure, we did nothing. We started in 1992.
For youths like WANDA MCHACHO, whose family was wiped out during the East Rand violence, joining up together as boys and facing the conflict head-on was the only solution.
We tried to get those guns. Then it happened that we tried to combine all the gens, because there were many places. There was 2 sticks, Fire, Jamaica, Shabangu, Mnyane, those from 5, all those things. I would say we would all meet when playing soccer between different teams. We then tried to combine forces, still living at Penduga. It then turned out that we did not trust each other. So we then tried to fundraise. Then there was one of our friends, his name is Bongani. We call him Maponya as the gents, whose parents have a shop. He tried to help us with money. Then we bought an AK-47. The name of that AK was called Dead Body, Stumbu. As the gents, long before we used the AK, it turned out that we are being forced to join Inkat. We must go and patrol. We must now also go guard Ngala section, so that the Ntabanzimbi boys do not attack. Then no one told the other. Out of all the Penduga boys, that the situation was now bad. We all ran away. We all then met at the shops, and there was no place to sleep. Mothers of Tokoza played an important role in youth here in Tokoza. Whereas it made them angry that we smoked drugs, which as gents we smoked for courage, that made them very angry. But they understood our situation, because to handle a gun, shoot and defend, is not something that you can just do ordinarily. Sometimes people would make you angry, and what hit us most was that we had left our parents on the other side, and our parents' houses are on the other side. They're also now moving, and you see, to leave your roots and dignity in the veld, that can never be right.
And yabona inkaba yakho uzoyishiya esigangeni ngeke kulunge kanjalo.
It's 1997, 6 years after the political conflict started in the East Rand. For the Tambo Slovo Self-Defense Unit, those past years were the most frightening and hardest times of their lives. But the question remains, what about now?
Money, going back to school, sports facilities, many things. Because if you look around us, we're talented. But we have no resources, job skills. There are some of us who are skilled, but there's no work. And we also need training centers and so forth. We're still youth. It's far where we're going. And we want to get there. We want to be like our parents. And we want to add more than our parents. But we need help. We're disturbed in our life. In a short time because of the violence. Because we had to have guns.
MAHLENGI BENGU is chairperson of the National Youth Commission, which has been set up to address the needs and aspirations of youth in South Africa.
We think that demilitarization as a principle must be accepted by South African society. We believe that, in fact, young people in this country, and in general what you call children of wars, have been highly militarized, precisely because of where this country comes from. The key challenge that faces this country is to create programs that will ensure that when you talk about demilitarization, you don't do so in abstraction. Talk about demilitarization and say what kind of skills, do these people need, and therefore how best to reintegrate them into mainstream or into normal society, if I may use the term.